Hey guys, it's Aiden here making another video. Today I'm here with Layo from the channel Layo, the Leprechaun, and we're going to talk about Psychosis and um, his experience with Psychosis. Hope you enjoy the video.
Speaking of marbles and losing them,
What an introduction.
I think, well, the reason I think you connected with me is because of your experience of losing your marbles. Um,
Completely. Yeah.
so everyone knows that I've already, I talked about it, but why don't you share sort of your experience with what that was like for you?
So I'll quickly give a quick summary of what my psychosis was like then, because it's very different to your psychosis.
Right.
So my psychosis, I had a lot of paranoia and anxiety, and you might even say depression before,
Mm,
maybe PTSD.
mm,
And then the psychosis came in after an edible,
mm,
and it started with visual hallucinations. So the hallucinations were like shadows moving in a room.
mm,
So at the time with my paranoia, I actually thought it was like, Chinese military like coming after me.
mm,
Whenever I first had my visual hallucinations, I was in a private room which was connected to a hostel. So beside my private room, there was a wall, and the other side of that wall, there was a dorm room with five, six people in it. While I was lying there in my bed, I just smoked a joint and I turned around. I was facing the wall and I could see in the dorm room two people recording me. So I looked like a cam recorder and yeah, like a film set almost. I could hear them whispering then and my heart was just pounding. I lifted my arm to show them that I could see them and they were like, oh shit. And they then started moving from their bed. They were moving towards their door, towards my door then, and then these shadows were crawling up to the door, coming into the room, and then crawling along the wall towards me. And at this point, I was fucking shitting myself. Like, so I went and I grabbed my knife and I grabbed my deodorant can and my lighter, and I just slept beside that,
mm,
just like hoping that these shadows would go away.
mm,
The next morning, I told myself I was going to leave this room, but I missed checkout, so I had to pay for it. So being, tight on money, I was like, fuck it, I'll stay another night. And then stayed another night. And yeah, the shadows came back and they were moving more. And yeah, I missed checkout again. So I stayed a third night and the shadows happened the third night. And on that third night, I could not get any sleep. I stayed up the whole night
mm,
and no sleep, went to a hostel. There's quite a high relation between not being able to sleep and psychosis, I
mm.
found from doing research. Don't know if you had, did you have struggle with sleep whenever you had your psychosis?
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't sleep. That's like a major sign. My counselor actually said during my second one, he's like, as long as you're sleeping at night, like that means you're in a good place. Once you stop sleeping, then that's when you know you're in trouble.
Yeah, seems to be the case with
Yeah.
like nearly everyone that has psychosis. So that was my visual hallucinations, and they then stopped whenever I went to the hostel. So it was like I ran away from the hallucinations. So I came to believe that maybe this room that I was in was haunted. Like it was a real dodgy place anyway. Like, you could tell by the vibes. It was the cheapest place on booking.com.
Mm,
And it just had a weird feeling about it whenever I went in.
mm,
And then it got even weirder while I was there. But the hostel, it was really nice. I didn't have any hallucinations for 2 days. And then this is whenever the auditory hallucinations came in. So I'll tell you the story, but just before they came in.
mm,
I was in Vietnam and I had planned on setting up a business in Vietnam
mm,
to export. exotic dried fruit and bring it to Ireland. Because it was a niche. They didn't have the dried fruit in Ireland. Anyway, I was to meet some business people that day, so I went up to the rooftop for a fourth-story floor. I smoked a joint, and I met a couple from Ireland. So straight away we get along, like, yo, what's the crack, man? What's happening?
Yeah.
And we're sharing stories, we're having a laugh. They then invite me out to go for a few drinks. And I'm like, no thanks, I'm working on a business, just gonna smoke a joint, then go to bed. So they go off to the pub. I smoke this joint, and while I'm smoking this joint, to the right of me, there's this Vietnamese guy, and he's just staring at me. You can tell he's really nervous because he's like, shaking a wee bit, and there's sweat coming down his forehead. His forehead looks like a waterfall. He's sweating that much.
Yeah.
And he's making me really uncomfortable by the amount he's staring at me. So I do, the best thing you do when you got weed, share it. So how's you want to smoke the joint, man?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, man, have a smoke. And it gets even more uncomfortable. He starts asking me like what room I'm in and telling me that he doesn't usually stay at hostels. He usually stays at a hotel across the road, but he's just here to like socialize with people.
Yeah.
And kind of felt like he was hitting on me. So I was getting really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I put the joint out. I went to bed. I had a hot, steamy shower.
Yeah.
And then coming out of the shower with my towel wrapped around me, I'm going really slowly because I'm really stoned.
Yeah.
I jump up into the top bunk of my bed and I hear this girl run out of my dorm and close the door. She gets to the hallway and she's this French girl and she shouts, "Oh my God, you have to help me. There's this crazy guy in my room."
Yeah.
And me being, stoned and paranoid, I'm like, is she talking about me? Does she think I'm the crazy guy?
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with me? I'm just stoned. Like, why should she think I'm crazy?
Yeah.
And then suddenly a familiar voice came in, and it was my friends from back home.
Yeah.
And they started just talking to me normally, like, yo, Leo, what's happening? We came the whole way over from Ireland to Vietnam to meet you. We sent that Irish couple to get you to come to the pub, and we're going to surprise you there. Why'd you not come to the pub? We thought you'd go to the pub. And at this time, I genuinely think that it is them. It sounds so clear that it is them. So I respond with like, what the fuck? What are you doing in Vietnam? How did you get over here? You're all supposed to be working. And then it hits me that, although this dorm is full, I'm the only one who can hear them. And yeah, I started to get a bit freaked out then about why I could hear them and no one else could. And I tried to ignore it, just went to sleep. The next day, they did not come in. There was no voices. But I started to get pneumonia symptoms at this point. So the guy below me, I think he was from Singapore or something, but he did not leave his bed the whole time. He was just coughing and sneezing all the time. And this is peak COVID. Like this is March 2020. So I start to feel, this guy's flu coming along because, the air conditioning is on all the time. Whatever disease he has been spread to me. So I'm pretty sure I've got COVID now. So I put myself in isolation. I get a private room to myself. And 2 days into being in isolation, the voices come back. And this is a whole new story in itself. So in this private apartment, right, I'm really sick at the minute. Like I'm coughing, I'm sneezing in my bed, I'm sweating so much my bed is like a swimming pool. I think I got pneumonia because, my lungs, they sound like a bong as if they have water at the bottom of it. Every time I inhale, it's like, and on top of that, this is the first time I've ever had this. My shit was green. Turns out this is a symptom for pneumonia. And at that time, pneumonia was said to be a symptom of COVID. So I just presumed that I had COVID. So I put myself in isolation and I had a weed edible. So I ate half of this. Was a brownie. Waited half an hour, didn't feel anything. I then ate the other half.
Classic.
Waited half an hour. I know, right? Probably should have waited longer. So I ate the other half then, waited half an hour, still didn't feel anything. So I rolled myself a joint. I opened the window to smoke this joint, and if you can imagine, the window has got a metal frame and then it's got a curtain. So I pull back the metal frame and I put my hand on the curtain. And as I pull back the curtain, something hits my hand. I'm like, what the fuck is this? So I pull back the curtain, and it's a bat. And a bat flew into the window and starts circling the roof of my apartment. And I'm like, what the fuck? Fucking bat. So I put on my torch and I like shine it out the window to try to get the bat to go towards the light. But then it comes to me, oh shit, bats are blind. So I then start trying to shout out the window so it can like follow my voice. While I'm shouting out the window, then two more bats fly in through the window and start circling the room. So there's three bats flying in the inside of this apartment. And at this time, I'm naked and a bat hits me on the head. So I'm like, ah! Scream like a wee girl, grab a towel, and I run down to the bottom floor to speak to the receptionist. And I say to them, yo, you've got to help me. There's bats in my room. And these two ladies, being Vietnamese, they're like, what's a bat? So I'm like, quick, follow me. And so I like lead the army into the battlefield, bring them into the room. And they're like, a bat. And they then get this big brush and they start whacking the bats as if it's like Quidditch or hurley or rounders or baseball. That's what you play in America, yeah? Baseball.
Yeah.
They're whacking these bats, knocking them down one by one, and then they get all three of them down and scoop them out the window. And I'm fucking relieved. The two Vietnamese ladies are turning around to me and call me, oh, you're Batman. And I'm like, oh, thank you so much. So grateful for them doing that. They then leave and I'm able to lie down my bed and relax. And by this point, the edible has fairly kicked in, so I'm pretty high. And then my friends come back into my head. And at this point, I was really struggling to know who I was as a person. I had like a bad breakup just before that. I was kind of lost. And my friends came into my head, and the first thing they say is like, yo, Leo, are you gay? I always knew you were gay, but... And I'm like, I'm not gay. I'm just bi-curious, maybe. I'm not sure. And then they start just slabbering at me. So like slabbering is like being critical. And I start slabbering back at them, just back and forth, saying mean things to each other.
Are you like speaking out loud, or are you doing this like in your mind?
Internally, yeah.
Okay.
At least I think so, anyway. I'm pretty sure I was.
The last thing I heard was the name of the English person was blank.
Yeah. Dwayne. So Dwayne was in my brain making me insane.
Okay.
This guy, like, whenever he came into my head, it was like I completely lost control of my own thoughts. And I started saying a lot of irrational things that I would not usually say. He told me that he had put me through, I was being put through an experiment. And this experiment was a game. And so they were doing this to make me better. And the reason that my friends were able to communicate with me was because they were on their PlayStations and Xboxes,
Mm.
and like the whole world could hear my thoughts, supposedly. So there was this whole big story behind it about how they were able to put a mind reading device inside of my head through my ear,
Mm.
and they always had to have someone close by with a Bluetooth device so that they could hear my thoughts. And yeah, this was to make me better, supposedly.
Mm.
And immediately, whenever I heard that, the world could hear my thoughts, I started to think about everything in my past life that I wouldn't want the world to know.
Mm.
So, all of the trauma that I've been through, all of the crimes that I'd committed,
Mm.
and all of the drug dealers I'd used. So, any drug dealer that came in, I would try and not say their name and try and not say any evidence. And I fully believed that I actually was a part of this experiment for a long time.
Mm.
And so I really suppressed my thoughts. I tried not to say of any story that involved any criminal activity.
Mm.
And I was constantly getting judged for all the traumatic events in my past life. So
In your past life, meaning like a previous lifetime, or like your past life, like the life that you've lived so far to this point.
my current life
Okay,
is just the past of my current life.
gotcha.
Yeah. So um just give me a second to try and gather myself here.
Yeah, you're okay.
Um
Take your time. Again, only share like what you feel comfortable sharing too. You know, you don't have
yeah,
to share everything. This is, you know, you're in control. This is, yeah,
thanks.
yeah.
So with this experiment I believed I was a part of, I suppressed a lot of memories. And so a lot of stuff that I had completely forgotten about creeped back in. And so it was actually as if I was going through my whole life. In that sense, it was kind of like the Bardos. Whenever you die, you come out of your body and then you see your whole life as it has been. And you are the one who is judging your whole life. And depending on your judgment of your life, that will decide on what you will be in the afterlife. So in the Bardo's case, the five lives are that you could be reincarnated into are God, demigod, human, part of the earth, or like sorry, hell.
Mm.
So they're the five afterlives. And it really felt like I was going through the Bardos.
Mm.
Um I'd asked you on your live chat about the Bardos. You said you'd read a little bit into
Mm.
the
Yeah,
Tibetan Book of the Dead.
yeah. I've read a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um so yeah, it was really like the Bardos, and I was reading that book at the time as well, which was an interesting um, combination. Anyway, this experiment, I had like 10 of my friends from back home in my head. And for each one of these 10 friends, they had to tell me why I had been a bad friend. And I had to tell them why I loved them. In the opposite order, though. I told them why I loved them, and then they told me why I'd been a bad friend. So I had to go through each one of these 10 friends. And it was insane going through all these 10 friends and hearing about what I'd done wrong. And to give you a few examples, one of my friends is black. Me and him, I believed we came up with a cure, not a cure, we came up for a solution to racism and how we can connect people throughout the world. And I believe there was like 2 billion people on live stream listening into our conversation.
Mm.
I also believe that I'd be able to find a solution for the peace in the north of Ireland, where I'm from.
Mm.
one of my friends also told me that he loved me and he wanted to, have like sexual relations with me, and I did not. And because I did not, he said he was cutting himself and he said he was going to kill himself. And I actually made an attempt to run to his house. My dad stopped me before and he asked me to ring him. He asked me, "Does your friend know you're coming to his house?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, he must do." And I was like, "Wait, maybe he doesn't." So I rang him, and yeah, he had no idea what was going on in my head, and he wished for me to send help, get help. So it was actually on like listening to the ninth friend about why I'd been a bad friend to him. What he said to me was what sent me to hospital. So to take you back in like a couple of days beforehand, I had just came home from Vietnam. So I got really lucky with my flight. Like I'm pretty sure the day after Vietnam had completely stopped flights to Ireland. And like the flight before mine got cancelled. So I had to rebook it. I got really lucky getting home. I quarantined for 2 weeks, and then after 2 weeks, I rang my mate and I was like, "Yo, bro, can you give me a joint?" And he was like, "Yeah, man, no worries." So he left me a joint, and I smoked half of it. And this is while I'm hearing a lot of voices. At this point, I don't even think I'm in psychosis. I think I'm in this experiment. And the joint, man, it made me so fucking creative. It was fucking amazing. I immediately started to think of a song inside of my head, and it was a fucking banger. Like I was dancing along the street, creating this song in my head. And then I got home and I picked up my trumpet and I was playing my trumpet like the best I'd ever played it. I could hear my mum and dad in the kitchen being like, "Is he just going with the flow there? Is he just making that up? Wow, it's really good." And then put the trumpet down. I started like brainstorming all of these amazing ideas about how I can like save the world, like through like an environmentally friendly business. I'm like visioning, like every roof having like a garden on top of their roof, and I could create this for them, and like changing their gardens into forests and building forests. And then my dad started playing piano, so me and my dad start jamming together. And we'd not jammed together in like 5 years, 6 years. And this is the first time we were jamming, like, proper free flowing, not any structured music.
Yeah.
And it was such beautiful scenes, man. It was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, though, in my head, the voices, my mates, are telling me that because in this game experiment, I had said the name of a drug dealer, that drug dealer had been arrested. His son, really angry now, was now coming to kill me. And they were telling me like, "Layo, you gotta get ready. This guy's gonna come kill you now. He's gonna come killing you and your family." And yeah, man, I was literally playing music as if it was like my last time on this earth. And then we stopped playing music, and no one came to kill us. And ironically enough, then the voices actually told me, "Yo, Leo, you should tell your dad you can hear voices." And so it was thanks to my voices I told my dad I was hearing voices. Immediately he was like, "Yo, Leo, you gotta stop smoking weed." And I was like, "Dad, look how creative I got with music." He was like, "Nah, it's not worth it." So a couple of days, like I felt like shit the day after that. I had an awful stone over. And 3 days after, I still had a bit of weed left. So I racked up a bong, hoofed it, and then I went to watch a movie. It was, Training Day. So, you know Denzel Washington?
Huh?
You know Denzel Washington?
Mm-mm.
No? What other movies is he in? Uh, can't think of what other movies he's in, but he's a
What's
black
his
actor.
name? What's his name?
Denzel Washington.
Denzel.
He's a really big actor, man.
Okay, yeah, I know who he is. Yeah.
You know him? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course you do, man. Training Day is a fucking amazing movie, right? I
Mm.
recommend you watch it. But I hoofed this bong, and it wasn't even a big bong, mate. It was like half a bong.
Mm.
I sat down to watch it, and I spent the whole time being engulfed inside of my own head with my own thoughts.
Mm.
The ending credits then came up for the movie, and I could not recall one single thing of the movie. I was just completely out of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was in that moment that really put into perspective how, deep I had gone into psychosis and how the weed definitely was not helping me.
Mm.
So I stopped smoking weed after that.
Mm.
And then I'm going back to my friend saying these nasty things about me and then me going to hospital. So I my mum and dad, they took me to A&E, so accident and emergency. They did not take me to a psych ward. And I'm actually really grateful that they did not take me to the psych ward because I think the psych ward would have. Sorry, was my alarm going?
Oh, you're fine.
I think the psych ward would have put me on medication immediately,
Mm.
which at the time I would have taken. But because I did not get the medication immediately, I decided whenever I eventually did get offered medication, I think it was like 2 weeks after, that I would not take any medication and I was going to try and battle the psychosis holistically.
Mm.
So that's all for this video. I'm going to continue the rest of the interview in another video. If you'd like this video, let me in the comments below, and maybe like the video, comment if you have questions. Make sure to check out Layo the Leprechaun's channel. I'll put the link in the description below for that. Hope you enjoy the video. Make sure to seek your truth and to take time for yourself. Bye for now.